Hey everyone, welcome to the YouTube Live for the book launch. So, those of you who don't know, um, my book, my fourth book, is available on Amazon. So, this is the author proof. Basically, Amazon allows authors to pre order their books to just, make sure that everything looks good. Like in this book, you guys can probably see like a bunch of crossed out stuff like that. So I did a bunch of rounds of edits, and the book is officially live. So I'm going to drop the link for the book for those of you who are interested in purchasing it. Into the chat. And then also, if you're seeing this later, then it'll be updated in the description. So I am just really, really excited. If you guys have any questions, the purpose of this live is essentially to celebrate that the book is officially on Amazon, but also to answer any questions that you may have about rolling, tummy time, basically any transitions from 0 to 6 months. So let's grab that link. So you can find the book by going to Tummy Time and Learning to Roll book, but you want to make sure that under the drop down, it's in the book section. Otherwise, a bunch of Tummy Time toys will pop up. And then let's drop this link in the description or in the chat for those of you who are on live. If you are on live, go ahead and say hi. I do have a list of like other typical questions just to answer things that parents who may find this later may have questions on tummy time, questions on rolling, things like that. So while we wait for a couple of people, I might do a quick post on Instagram and just say, if you guys don't follow me, it's at Dr. Lauren Baker. So let's give a quick story shout out. Hey everybody, we are live on YouTube. If you want to ask any questions on tummy time or rolling, then make sure you pop on and you can drop those in the chat. All right. I'll add a link. YouTube.com/Dr. Lauren Baker. Awesome. Cool. So then that just gives everybody else the opportunity to pop on if they want to. This was a little bit of a last minute live, so if no one pops on, I'm totally cool with that too. So basically, tummy time side lying play, so where babies are laying on their side, and back play are the building blocks to rolling. So if a 5-month-old is not rolling, if a 6-month-old is not rolling, if a 7-month-old is not rolling, they may have either not had the opportunity to play in one of those 4 positions, or they may have struggled. Like one of those positions was uncomfortable for that baby. And that could be due to underlying musculoskeletal tightness. So like the muscles, the joints, the fascia, and the tension in the body. It can be due to in utero position, and it can just be due to babies having preferred movement patterns that they like to utilize. And they do that repetitively. So maybe they only go into extension and they don't like going into flexion. They kind of try to avoid other positions. So if you have a baby that is in the 0 to 4-month range, focusing on strategic play positions while they're lying on their right side. So their right side is laying on the ground, their left side is laying on the ground, they're laying on their back, and they're spending time in tummy time can really help them strengthen the muscles on all sides of their bodies so that when they get strong enough to go into rolling, they have a really good foundation. And so in the book, one of the things that I absolutely love about it, let me find the most recent version, is that we go through and show pictures. Like there's over 240 pictures in this book. And we show different ways that you can play with your baby in tummy time. We show outdoor play. We show different toys that we found to be really helpful. And then the websites that have those toys linked so that you can easily access that. We talk about the different play positions. So we talk about back play. What does back play look like? What parts of their bodies um, can hit toys, can reach for toys, and why is that important for babies? Like the parents who tend to be subscribed to this channel are my favorite kind of parent. They are proactive and they love learning and they really want to know not just like, oh, hey, I should put my baby in tummy time. They want to know the why. They want to know how it connects to future milestones. They really care about how everything connects together so that they can really understand how does movement occur and what can I do to really influence my baby in these next milestones. So whether that's tummy time, sideline play, and back play, and how that relates to rolling, or rolling and how that relates to sitting and crawling and walking and things like that. So I'm really, really excited. We've got newborn photos all the way up through kind of like that 4 to 6 month range of babies in those different positions. We talk about like modified tummy time or modified sideline positions as well as modified tummy time positions because a lot of babies do really struggle with tummy time. And my favorite part about having this book is that it gives almost anyone a place where they can start. And then it really emphasizes my philosophy in PT and just baby movement in general, which is to build slowly over time to increase babies' ability to hit that goal, but we're going to work up to it at their tolerance. So I had a parent consult the other day where the baby just really struggled. Like we were 5 to 10 seconds in all fours. So they were a little bit past rolling. And my advice to the parent was, hey, every 5 to 15 seconds that they can tolerate compared to where they are now is a win. And I reiterate that in the book, which is the things that you are doing with your baby, proactive play positions, playing with them in sideline, playing with them on their tummy, helping them learn to roll, all of those motions are like compound interest. They end up building over time, and you might not see change right away, but just know what you're doing is valuable and is helping move towards that next stage of movement and that next milestone. Welcome if you are just popping on. Make sure you drop a comment if you have a question. And I'll just keep going through this book because I know a lot of people are going to catch the replay. We'll stay on for about 15, 20 minutes just to make sure that those who wanted to jump on live have a chance to. I know it can be around lunchtime and some mamas were maybe hoping to pop on during nap time. So depending on your time zone, it may or may not be conducive for them. So other pictures too, like positioning for babies who are struggling staying in sideline. So some babies struggle with just the way their body is positioned lying on their side. What can we do to meet them where they're at? Not necessarily force them to be in a position that is uncomfortable for them, but how can we use some type of external device or support that allows them to decrease the workload of being in that position so that they can relax into it, so that they can tolerate it better, so that they can do it for longer, so that those muscles have the opportunity then to strengthen in those positions. So, for example, in side lying, you can place a pillow or a towel underneath that top leg, and that helps support the body and allows a different type of strengthening. So it's you're not having to hold everything against gravity, but you're still working those muscles that are appropriate for that next stage of movement, which is rolling. So, the other thing that I love about this book is it's really for proactive and ambitious parents as well as healthcare providers. And what I love about the people who find this channel is that they really are thirsty for knowledge. They really want to know how the dots connect, how everything interconnects. But sometimes the information that they need or they want might be a little bit of a higher level than what maybe they're anticipating. And so I tried to do my best in this book to break everything down so it's in really bite-sized pieces so that parents can really feel like they can grasp all of this sometimes complex information. But I also break it down so that you know which chapters of the book might be a little bit more complex and which ones are maybe a little bit more beginner friendly. So, in these pages, again, this is the author proof. My since it went live today, my book copy will come on Friday. So you may even get your copy of the book earlier than me if you are not in Boise. um, I feel like if you're in Illinois, there's like a book printing facility really close. So I feel like people get books in Illinois so quick. So, anyways, this is the beginner versus advanced route chapters. And so this helps parents to really feel like, okay, like, hey, maybe I'll wait on this chapter because I don't quite need it yet. Maybe I'm just looking for proactive play positions for my babies and tips on tummy time, sideline play, and back play. In that case, if your baby is not yet struggling with rolling, you might not need the more complex chapter going through literally what each body part does in regards to rolling and why each section of the body has its own role that is important for rolling. So maybe that's not necessarily what you need at that moment, but hey, if your baby does struggle with it, you have it right here. You just grab it from your shelf, say, hey, I feel like maybe the arms aren't contributing to rolling as much as they should. My baby's doing great rolling belly to back, but maybe not quite as interested in rolling from their back to their belly. Well, there might be a mobility restriction there. They may not be reaching both hands to one side. And so you can go through the biomechanics section of the book and really be like, oh, that's what the arm's job is in rolling back to belly. Cool. So the book is also broken out into sections. So it's broken out into the building blocks of rolling. So why rolling is important, some considerations for rolling. It talks about containers and suggestions to how to limit any adverse impacts that containers could have. And for those who don't know, container is anything that restricts the baby's movement. So like DockATot, Bumbos, swings, jumpers, anything like that. And also talks a little bit about some options that are often more recommended by physical therapists in place of others. So, and kind of some of the reasons behind that. And then it also goes into tummy time, sideline play, back play. And then it talks about rolling belly to back, because often that happens first. And then it talks about back to belly. And then towards the end of the book, it goes through a bunch of different exercises that are categorized again in kind of that in kind of the body section. So exercises like focusing on the head and neck. What does the head and neck do? And how do we strengthen that area if that seems to be the problem? It has core strength, arm strength, neck mobility. So we want the head and neck to move in all directions equally. So there's six directions that the neck can move, and we want to be able to make sure that there aren't any muscular restrictions or tightness in that area, how to screen for it, and if you're not comfortable doing that, how to ask someone else, like a provider, to screen your baby for those motions. It talks through arm mobility. We really need to have a flexible arms in multiple directions, upper trunk. So the top half and the bottom half of your body need to be able to move on their own. So your upper half of your body needs to move on a stable lower half, and your lower half of the body needs to move on a stable upper half. And then as like you're wringing out a towel, your upper half and your lower half need to move at the same time in opposite directions equally to both sides. So it goes through all of those things, which I find less common even in the pediatric physical therapy community. Not every pediatric physical therapist has been trained in this perspective of movement. And so if your baby has been seeing a physical therapist and you feel like there might be a gap there, you're not seeing the progress you want to see, this could be helpful in that instance as well. If you guys are new and hopping on the live stream, if you have any questions on rolling or tummy time, feel free to drop those in the chat and I will make sure to address them. Just continuing on, it talks about positional releases, which may be a new concept. It's using the strain counter strain principle versus the traditional stretching principle. So that might be new to readers, but I love it. I use it in my practice. I find that it is really helpful and super calming for babies. So with babies, we can't feel that resistance of a stretch and know that our body is safe. So this is an opposite way to still get range of motion so that we can move equally side to side without maybe that accidental fighting of a traditional stretch, because it doesn't have that stretch resistance component in the style. So it goes over that. It goes over different ways that you can find providers that are trained in that method. And then it talks about task specific rolling. So okay, hey, we've got all of these pieces of rolling and tummy time, but how do we put it all together? How do we actually go from being face up to face down? How do we actually go from being face down to face up? And so sometimes babies just need to feel that motion so that they can put it into their body and be able to then produce it on their own. The other part that I love about this book is you actually get access to a free online course. So all of those links are listed in the book. And so while pictures are amazing, I know you guys know I love video. I have a YouTube channel. And one of the things I really felt was, okay, I want to get the book out in the world. I really want the people who are on the channel to have my brain, everything I could possibly know about rolling and tummy time, and everything that a baby would need access to and experience with. Put it on paper so that it can be in your house with you, but also know that pictures are very two-dimensional. So you can't see how movement changes or where your hand needs to go at the same time as the baby is moving. Obviously, I try to do my best with that with multiple pictures and multiple angles. But movement for me, like for example, I tried to learn how to fold origami flowers. And for the life of me, I could never actually produce a flower looking from a diagram in a book. The minute I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a YouTube video on this. After watching the YouTube video a couple times, I got my first flower and I was like, oh my God, that was so much easier for my brain to understand. And so that's why I find that videos are so important for family members, because it's something you can kind of watch again and again to try to really understand and see how that movement changes and how you can facilitate it with your own kiddo. So the online course, access to that is via the website is linked in the book. And I'm really proud of it. I think it's really cute. It's all animal themed. So you'll see like a lot of little graphics, like a little penguin and things like that. And so that makes it really fun Um, yeah, and then I also towards the end of the book, so this is the Proactive Play series. So this is the first book in the series. The next book will be Learning to Sit, which sitting comes after rolling typically in the milestone pathways. And so at the end of this book, you will see how does rolling impact sitting. And right now, while the book has not been written yet, because all of my time and effort has been placed into this guy, there is a free course for sitting, crawling, and walking that have already been completed. And so if you do get access to the rolling course through the book, then you can get access to the sitting course when you're ready for it, and then the crawling course when you're ready for it, even if the books are not available yet, because these things just take time. Like writing this book took about 8 months of effort and love and focus. So, yeah, so we've been on for about 20 minutes. Does anyone have any questions about rolling or tummy time, any struggles that they're experiencing with? Make sure you drop those questions in the chat. I appreciate you guys for showing up with me. One of the questions that I had researched that parents often have that is in the book, and as well as I'll talk about today, is the role of tone, so muscle tone, and how babies what happens if babies have low tone and they're not rolling over. So maybe a doctor or someone has said the term low tone to you in the past. Maybe it's something you've researched on your own. And one of the things that I created for the book is this picture. See if I can show you guys of a spectrum. And the way that I view tone is basically you have low tone on one side, high tone on the other side. High tone individuals typically have a neurological diagnosis like cerebral palsy, or had a stroke in utero or something like that. And they have a hard time relaxing their muscles. So when they go to move, sometimes they are activating everything, or they're going in either full extension or full flexion. But they may have a hard time just relaxing their hands so that they can pick up a pencil or hold a toy, things like that. So that's on one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is low tone, and that those individuals also tend to have a neurological diagnosis. Down syndrome is a diagnosis that is often associated with low tone. Others can also be within that group. Now, low tone on the complete opposite is basically the resistance in your muscle fibers is not as high as individuals with high tone. And so each muscle fiber has a level of resistance in it and a level of flexibility in it. Those with high tone have a lot of resistance in their muscle fibers, but not very much flexibility in their muscle fibers. And those with low tone have a lot of flexibility in their muscle fibers and not as much resistance in their muscle fibers. Now, there's the muscle fibers themselves, and then there's the brain's connection to the muscle fibers. So it gets a little bit more complex. But what families need to know is there's also a range within average. So there's a big circle around to average, and then you have high average, average, like Goldilocks, and low average. And so the individuals with low average tone are often the parents who are like, hey, my kiddo's just like not as motivated. It seems like some of these positions are harder for them than maybe it was for a sibling or kids their same age peers. And so I go through, there's a whole chapter on tone in here. And so it just tries to explain that there is a big variety between types of muscles and individuals' experiences with their tone in their muscles. And so some kiddos may need a little bit more intentional play positions and exercises, but they may still be able to hit those milestones. It just takes a little bit more intention. It takes a little bit more knowledge on the parents' part to help them, because maybe they don't quite have as much available resources to do it just totally on their own, right? If it takes more effort, babies always love to go to the path of least resistance. So if it takes more effort, they may be less inclined to do it. Now, the role as parents and providers is to help babies buy in to doing challenging things. It is okay for them to work hard. It is okay for them to be a little bit uncomfortable and to know while this is hard and it doesn't feel great in my body because, that muscle burning sensation is slightly uncomfortable even for adults, their body is still safe. It is still safe to work hard. We're going to continue to acknowledge your tolerance level and only go to that. But it's still okay to do these strategic activities because the risk of not crawling or the risk of not rolling is so much higher for their long term lifespan than a little bit of kind of challenging exercises if we do it while they're little. And you may only need to do those strategic exercises to a point. Now they can roll over and they're like, heck, this is awesome. I'm down for this. Like now I will take over. And maybe when they get to jumping, you may have to, have a little trampoline or go to more climbing gyms or playgrounds so that they get more practice. Maybe they need more practice than their same age peers if they're in that low average tone range. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to do it on their own. They just need a little bit more strategic attention. And that is kind of the goal of this book, is to make sure that parents have access to information that can help be proactive in the area of play and milestones, so that when they're in elementary school and preschool, that they have a really, really good, strong foundation because they developed it as their body grew bigger. And it's much easier to address things when infants are little than it is once they're a little bit older, because your mass increases, right? Like you're taller, your legs and arms are heavier than they were when they were little. So if we get them to the point where they're able to focus on getting as strong as they can as babies, then likely their experience as small humans will be easier and they'll be more excited to be active and play, which helps brain development and academic skills. So, I am going to wrap up if there are no more questions. I really, really appreciate everybody who's hopped on. And if you want, definitely make sure you check the link. It's also in the community tab in the post. So if you are looking for it later and you can't find this video, check the community tab and there will be a link to the book. And then also this book will live in the description for the replay, anyone who grabs that. Again, it is called Tummy Time and Learning to Roll, a baby development book for ambitious parents and pediatric healthcare providers to help babies learn to roll independently, by Dr. Lauren Baker, pediatric physical therapist and the face of this channel. So again, if you guys have any questions, even on the replay, make sure you drop them in the comments. I love answering questions for subscribers and anyone who finds this channel, because I feel like access to a pediatric physical therapist's brain can do so much good in the world. And I'm here for it. All right, guys, thank you so much for hopping on and joining and celebrating the release of this book with me.